baffle in the gas tank had come loose. It'd make a sharp right turn and slide over the pipe so I couldn't get any gas. So I tried to make careful turns, but made one too sharp and she cut off. I'd pull off the side of the road and take the gas line loose and blow it so it made the piece of metal go off and went down. So I went down and took down to the park, sat there by the river a while, and I asked her, I won't say what she said, I don't remember what she said. Anyhow, people ask whether that's the first time I kissed her. And people ask me if it tasted with gas, and I don't really remember that.
What?
I had to blow the gas line out. So,
Was that Milburn's Landing Park?
Wait, this is Grandma.
Milburn's Landing.
Where? Which grandma? Right here, this one. I thought he said he parked
Along the
on the
railing,
second.
and I asked
Yeah,
her.
yeah. That story of his life, the story of the king's life.
Oh dear, I didn't get that.
So that was the beginning of the next family. And
What year were you married? 1947?
yeah, that's right. Didn't take long. And I found out why she was kept for me. She'd been trained how to take care of children and how to fit in. She'd been a perfect mother, a perfect minister's wife. I'll tell you, Agnes gave me a lot of inspiration, trying to take care of her and the children. And we had a bill come in. I said, well, that bill's got to be paid tomorrow. I said, come on to bed. Said, the Lord will provide. And quite often they get a check in the mail, pay a bill. And when she died, one of the brethren that Fraser, you would know him if I told him, I won't tell his name, but anyway, he said, Milton, I think we ought to try to lift an offering for Amos's funeral bill. He said, he's got an awful bill, our funeral bill. So I said, well, maybe we'll discuss it. So they discussed it and announced it on Wednesday night. They'd lift an offering for Amos's funeral expenses. And got the check, and I went up to the funeral parlor and I asked him how much the bill was, and he told me I had $10 left. And I said, isn't there some other expense? He said, well, I usually get a gravedigger $10, so right to the penny, the Lord provided. He's done that so many times. I was a man that didn't have much vision, but when I was given a job, I did the best job I could. Elmer was always such a faithful worker, and one day after Agnes and I was married, we lived down at, working for $1 a day on the farm. And I came in, I said, I've been under a burden today, something's happening, I don't know what it is, but I just can't seem to work. She said, maybe the Lord's trying to tell you something. Went to church on Sunday and found out they had elected me as Sunday school superintendent of Holly Grove Church. And from that time on, then things went bad there, and I went to Gettysburg and worked in the furniture factory, and I was Sunday school superintendent at Mummersburg. And then I got a letter from George Hostler. He said things were, young people were moving away and people were going broke and selling their farm, but even wondered if I would consider coming down and be a preacher there to help him. That's an invitation, wasn't it? So we went. And sure enough, thought like it was. He said, we had a lot of children that had to be trained for the Lord here, and he dumped a lot of stuff on my lap in August. And I went to have a summer Bible school next summer. So we organized summer Bible school, and I kept that going the whole time. The largest rural summer Bible school there was. They come on Cushman motor scooters, and every farm trucks and everything else to school. We had about 100 students there out in the rural country. We had 2 solid weeks, last 2 weeks in June. One year Ruby came was 12th of June, and paid a doctor. And then I got behind on my rent 3 months. It seemed like nobody wanted to pay for 3 months, nobody wanted help, and then getting no answers to prayers, so I went in to see if I could borrow money to pay my 3 months rent. No, 10 months rent. What was it?
I don't remember.
3 months
I saw
rent.
the paper.
Huh? 3 months rent. 3 months rent, that's what it was. 3 months rent. I couldn't pay it. And Aaron Mass needed it. He was a preacher who just left there. So I went in to see if I could borrow some money. He said, well, if you have enough collateral, well, yes, we can make a loan. So they come out and they mortgage my rugs, my table, my chairs, furniture. I had enough collateral, so they loaned me the money.
How much?
I paid it back $3.60 a month for 10 months. I borrowed $300.
No?
30, not 300. No, my land,
$30.
$30?
300 would have been a million.
$3.
Huh?
You just borrowed $30.
Yeah, $30.
What was your rent, $10 a month?
$10 a month
And
For your house?
getting money from the members in the church.
from the church. I had 2 weeks of summer Bible school. I couldn't earn any money then. I earned 25 cents an hour when I worked in the carpentry trade. And then I went to a Holiness preacher, had property, had a house up toward Westover. And he said, I said, I'd like to rent a house. He said, oh, you don't want that house. He said, you find a house and buy it. I said, how am I going to buy a house when I didn't have $30 to pay rent? He said, you find a house you like and I'll buy it for you. And he suggested a place, and so I went, got this place. Come find out the man that owned it had lost it, and he had debts, and so when his brothers down in Cape Charles, they had money, they were railroad men, and they loaned him money to buy the farm back, and they said, Captain, they couldn't do anything with it, so they gave him a deed back to it. So when I deeded back to him, he deeded to him and all his children, 6 of them. And I had to see every one of them, get them to sign before I get a deed to the place. And I
What'd you pay
kept,
for it?
huh?
What'd you pay for
It's $1,150.
Place we are now?
Yeah.
Place you are now?
Yeah, $1,150. And then we went to, I told the lawyer, I said, well, I want a certified deed to it. And when I went in to pay the money, it took Mr. Rourke in to write the check. The lawyer said, well, the widows of your brothers down there in Cape Charles still have a mortgage on it. He said, I'm afraid they don't know anything about it. If I'd write to them, well, they might claim it. So they were held up for a little bit. And he went ahead, called them, I think, got permit from them. Then he didn't want to put the money in the bank for his creditors would get it, so he put it in the bank there right at Princess Anne, in an account with him and his daughter. So that's the way I got there. A lot of people say, how in the world did you buy that land? I said, perseverance. Perseverance. One of the ladies, her husband wouldn't sign it until they read everything. Took a notary public back to her home, read all the fine print and everything before he'd let her sign. So perseverance.
it? How long did you live in that house before I was born?
Huh? Well, not very long. Not very long.
We moved in May, and he was born in September.
Then I'll tell you about a miracle that Harry's here. I don't know why he's here, but
A lot of other people were, one or two.
I think so too. But I'm working away.
Aww.
I was working away, and I said, had it one morning, his face was swelled all up like this, and I said, Agnes, this boy's got Bright's disease. Oh no, you just haven't had time to notice him lately. He's just getting fat.
No.
said, Harry, yeah. I said, you take him to the doctor today. I went to work and she got the neighbor to take him in the doctor. Doctor left a message, said when Amos comes home, have him call me right away. So I called him and said, I want you to bring him in and write a sample of urine in right away. Said that boy can drop dead most of the time.
How old was he?
He what?
What did you have?
And
Bright's
Bright's disease.
What's
oh,
that?
swallow.
That's when you're just too bright for your own good.
He said bring a sample of urine in when you come in tonight, and I want to talk to you. So I took the urine in, he heated it, and turned right to jelly. Put acid in it, and acid ran right off the top of it. Didn't know anything about it.
Had to be less than 3.
He said he could have a spasm. And
So what
Was
do
that
you do?
sick then?
Huh?
Was she sick then?
She didn't start with a real problem till after that. But,
So he had to be like 1 year old, huh?
huh?
He was 1
Yeah.
year old or so?
Yeah. Right after, soon after we moved there, but he was swelled up. And
So how did
Doc said that all turned to albumin.
What happened?
So he has survived wonderfully.
Permanent breakdown.
Anything else you want to know?
We found out last fall, this was,
Huh?
that we found out last fall that Joseph and Jonathan are going to school with their great-grandson of the fellow that loaned you the money to buy the house.
Yeah.
And there were,
Oh, is that right?
everything else.
Oh, people had a fit. How in the world did you buy that place? We tried to buy it. No, I couldn't buy it. I've improved it a little bit.
I wonder if the,
Oh, the way I paid for it. I paid the interest on the money all the time up till a sawmill moved in across the road from me and set a sawmill back there. People that had rented my place, when the people owned it down, they hauled the lumber off, wood off, to Christie sold it and all that kind of stuff. So I had a scattered bunch of trees around, some pretty big pine trees. So I walked over to him and I said, oh, he approached me, he says, you want to sell your timber? I thought, well, you never mount anything the way it is, cut it all off and plant it. So I said, you tell me what you'll give me for it. I said, I'll sell the whole work, cut anything that's on there. So he came back and said, I'll give you $1,100. I had to dig up the 50 papers place. And
I
then,
think that was when Daniel was a baby, that
Then-
we did that.
then it was all cut off and the government come in and planted about 7,000 trees or something like that.
Wow.
I wonder-
We were free of debt.
I wonder how many jobs the grandkids could name. If you just wait and see how many the grandkids could name. How many jobs he's done. My boys have been very fascinated with things he's done in his life, and I don't think they know it all.
carpenter,
Carpenter,
preacher,
preacher,
Sunday school superintendent?
principal, school, Sunday school superintendent,
Furniture factory.
furniture maker.
This is about eggs.
Hey, what do you,
Apologies.
Keep going.
Dan?
Baker,
A baker?
coal digger,
Hang on.
What are
Okay,
you finding out?
his jobs. Apple cherry picker,
Milkman, did you get it?
milkman.
I thought he was a cook.
When was he a minor, for heaven's sakes?
Ask him.
Not very long.
When were you a minor? I thought he said.
Daddy, Patty asked, where were you working in the coal mines?
Well, I worked in a coal mine between our place and Kenmore, about 3 miles. 3 miles.
You've never seen a picture of him with his miner's hat
I
on.
don't think so.
and
I'd
black
love
face.
to see that.
Working underground.
I said baker.
Wow.
No, I worked in a bakery.
Fishing.
Oh, right.
Here, I raised gooseberries. When I worked in the bakery, I worked late nights sometimes, and we made gooseberry pies and cakes and everything like that. I had a date with a nurse at the hospital. She had 11 o'clock leave. The hospital had a training school for half a dozen nurses, so small hospital. And we were dating, and I said,
Get any ideas up there, guys?
and when I was delivering milk, I delivered milk to a fellow that had a boathouse. He said, Amos, anytime you want a boat, just go help yourself and put it back, put the orders back. So I went and I got the boat and brought her down back to the hospital, tied it there on the lake. Had a date with Ruby Borman, and she had 11 o'clock leave. I had a friend that worked down at the creamery, he worked late, and I said, say, we're going to double date tonight? I said, bring quart ice cream, we're going to have a green gooseberry pie. I'm going to bring in a green gooseberry pie, you bring a quart ice cream, and we're going on a double date. And he went up and he tried to get a date with the girls, and none of them were free, so they go. Oh, Miss Grant, she'd go around and see them in bed. They weren't in bed, she'd give them a fit. So the second time I went around and said, no, she hadn't come around yet, but I'll run a chance on that. Well, she did, man. He came, we didn't have a radio, we had a portable phonograph with some Gene Autry records. We went out in the middle of the lake. Green
Nice day.
pie ice cream.
Amos, did you make it plain that because you had to give up the dairy, then you went to work these other
Yes,
places?
I had to work. I worked in the bakery, I worked in the coal mine.
When you first moved to Maryland, you were a farmer. You worked with Foster Matthews
Yeah.
as farmer?
Yeah.
You forgot farmer.
Well, when I came to Maryland, I worked for Bernadette Wilder. I worked for John Kurtz across the bay. I drive across the bay to work for him.
As carpenter.
And Carpenter, yeah.
And then you also did a while.
Then I worked, when I went to Gettysburg, I worked in the furniture factory. They cut down to 28 cents an hour then. Up until that time, the government, I think, had to pay 32 cents or something, but then they knew it was going to be thrown out, so we worked for 28 cents an hour, and they said, if you don't make it, we'll turn you out. So then so I had to call and come back to be ordained. I said I wouldn't come back unless I had a 100%, at least 75% vote, because the church there never stuck together on anything. And so I went back and oh, the preacher asked me to come up. I said I wouldn't come unless I had a 75% vote. We took the vote at 100%. Only one member of the church wouldn't vote. He believed in a lot. He thought, no, he might get it. And he is the only man down there that had money, and everybody had borrowed money from him, so he run the church.
Can you give us your favorite verse? Favorite verse? Or favorite song?
I can't slip my mind right now. Oh, faithful is he who calleth you, who also will do it. Faithful is he who calleth you, who also will do it.
What's the reference?
I don't know what song.
We can find it for you.
Timothy or something, I don't know.
Faithful is he who calleth you what?
Who also will do it?
What did someone reminded me of one of my favorite songs was today, I can't think of who it. Anyway,
Which Gene Autry song
Huh?
which Gene Autry records did you have?
oh, there's Western songs, Gene Autry, you know that he's
Sing one.
Huh?
Which one?
Yippee-ki-yay.
Oh, I sing one of them.
It's laying right
There you go.
He didn't get it.
Was it
there.
a
To your left.
cylinder record?
That's the Western blood.
No, they're disc records.
Oh, this is
I have cylinder record photographs at home, but I don't have that.
The disc recorder, the disc player that had round records on it and cylinder records was Mother's, wasn't it? Did Mother buy that?
Yeah.
Mother bought that when she
Yeah.
was working.
Oh, we bought it in Gettysburg. Anyway, we had milk rot, went in town every day, you know. Young folks out home say, well, we're gonna have a party tonight. They call me up and say, bring some wieners home. Yeah, I'll bring wieners. Wiener and hot dogs, or we have a hot dog roast, ski slide and all that, you know. There's only one fellow to come across with any money. We shared. And I used to bring the nurses out. I'd go in and had somebody in the hospital for a long time. Elmer and Ralph, Dad, so on. So the nurses would get off, you know, and they said, well, we'll go out to the farm and have wash bottles. So they'd have a day off. I'd come by the hospital, pick up the girls, so I had a whole bunch of nurses coming out there all the time. one night I had a skiing party, I had 2 nurses out there.
Oh, weird.
I had made a ski sled,
What's that?
sled with bent up runners, about 3 people get on it. And we had a coolidge like this, snow would drift over and then you'd be a drop off like that. And so we just get a good start and then drop off, and then go flying. And get on there and went down, hit the bottom, a ravine down there where snow, ice had melted away, and she hit that, and the 2 nurses got both legs kind of crippled up. They didn't knew that they both were on duty, one on the top floor and one on the first floor. And they rubbed one on their knees with, the knees were worse, with alcohol, and they put hot pads on, and they changed off. Rotate, but they knew Miss Grant knew that they were crippled up, she'd never let any of them go anymore. One of them still living, of course, one was close to the wall.
Did you have a song you wanted to play with me?
Just his favorite song.
Yeah, let's do that. Last minute questions for Amos?
Yeah, Mom should have said when we were talking about, Grandpa and Grandma weren't accepting her. Grandpa and Grandma weren't accepting us too.
Yeah, except it's sure too, for no difference. Well, I tell one Harry, when he went to college, I guess he was a computer character anyway, what was it, psychology class, wanted to make a study of it, and asked all kinds of questions, and asked questions for me, you know. I said, well, they could examine it if they send me a report. And so they sent me a report, asked him about the division of families. They said, we don't know where the division is, they were all one family. That was in the report.
What else is in that report?
Who said that? I thought they were the division.
So Grandpa obviously had a thing for nurses. I think
That's what I'm hearing.
that carried through, didn't it? How many of us married nurses?
Out of weakness for nurses.
Carried through.
What?
Granny had one fact that probably none of us could top. She taught Bible school in at least 10 different places.
Okay. Wow. Good grandma.
Whoa.
Want to do that?
Hope everybody knows that surely goodness and mercy.
We'll do what we can.
In the cold night of sin I did roam, when Jesus the kind shepherd found me, and now I'm on my way home.
What's the supplement?
He wants to do something for
Dad wants to do something.
Go ahead.
Oh, I would say on this summer Bible school, I left all the records there, all the charts and everything, and they can't find a thing. And I have people coming into the church, don't you remember I was in your summer Bible school? I was in your summer Bible school. All right, I got one sheet that tells 1 year of all the students I had 60 some that year. But they'll come back. I had one who has a terminal illness. Her parents were good Christian people. She said she first found out she had this terminal illness, she said she thought she couldn't take it. Then she thought about the songs we sang at Holly Grove and the verses. She got hold of herself. She still suffered, but she's hanging on to what she learned in summer Bible school. So many people. I met one the other day. Cisco said, oh, here's my mentor, she says, and she heard me. Who's that mentor? And I looked over and I saw her sister. I knew her sister. I knew who it was. I said, oh yes, I have a letter that you wrote to me about a wonderful help I was as an illustration to your Bible class. She said, I should have written about 3 or 4 more letters. She said, just the other day, talking about summer Bible school. So I think we'll have a Bible school like we had at Holly Grove up in Maryland. Said we didn't study how to make cutout pictures and that kind of stuff, make gadgets. Said we studied the Bible, sang songs, and it was a Bible school. So I had people coming, oh, don't you remember me? I was about the worst one I think I had. I went to a doctor. Go to the doctor's house and I went to the house after. I said, well, you must have changed. I don't know who you are. She said, well, I'm not-
That was from Snow Hill, Summer Baptist.
yeah, well, she said, don't you remember? So I'm Mother Mary, so I have to raise all these children here. I said, don't you remember you took me to summer Bible school when I was in the third grade? I said, well, you've changed.
Go, Rosemary.
But I just don't have a record of the people that live there. Go ahead.
A pilgrim was I and a wandering, in the cold night of sin I did roam. When Jesus the kind shepherd found me, and now I am on my way home. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Surely goodness and mercy shall, and I shall feast at the tables spread for me. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. My soul, when I'm weary, He giveth me strength day by day. Beside the still waters, He guides me each step of the way. Surely He shall follow me all the days of my life. I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever, and I shall eat at the table spread for me. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. What's verse 3? Read the words first.
My favorite song last
That his father was a song leader too.
Dad was
His
a
father
song.
was a song leader, quite a singer.
Clap right in there.
Karen, Karen.
Did you hear about when Pat Earl was there? He stood on the stairs and he said, you need to start talking about God.
Talk to Karen.
Talk about God now. It was really funny. I don't know why.